My name is Rachel Thompson, and I'm 36. Mother to Maya, 9, and a lawyer who reads contracts the way other people read menus. Fast first, then slow, for every hidden fee. If there's a call to make or a form to file, it lands on my desk, even if that desk is the passenger seat of my car, sandwiched between daycare pickup and court filings. Life with Maya is a series of lists: socks, library books, inhaler, permission slips. I keep track because my head works better when real life is tidy. Growing up, tidy was my role in the family. My older brother, Cole, was the favorite, the spark who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. Mom called him our light. Dad said he was built for big things. I was solid, dependable, the person everyone leaned on. Cole tried everything: real estate, crypto, a landscaping business that mostly sold hoodies. I went to law school, paid off my loans one plodding year at a time. In pictures, Cole's teeth always showed. Mine didn't. Thanksgiving at my parents' house is muscle memory. You park by the busted basketball hoop, step into the heat from the oven, and get wrapped in a hug that smells like nutmeg and detergent. The TV blares. The turkey is always dry. Grandpa's carving knife shows up, even though Uncle Pete is more legend than man. This year, I told myself it would be fine. Maya loves the paper turkeys taped to the windows. She loves Grandma's rolls, the way Dad tries to cut the pie like it's a geometry class. I can handle sly comments about my hours as a lawyer. I can handle Cole calling me counselor in that teasing tone that turns work into a joke. We walk in. Cole is already there, arms wide, voice wider. He ruffles Maya's hair. "How's my favorite niece?" "I'm your only niece," she replies. Cole laughs like she's told the funniest joke in the world. Mom floats from the kitchen, cheeks flushed, apron on. "Rachel, you look thin," she says, shoving carrots onto my plate. "Eat. Don't work through dinner this time," I respond. "You think about work," Dad shouts from the living room. "Same thing," I mutter. We sit. We pray the same prayer we always do. Dad carves. Cole talks. Mom keeps feeding me like I'm a one-woman buffet. Maya taps my arm. "Can I have a roll now?" "In a minute," I say. 10 minutes later, she sets down her fork. "Mom," she whispers, pressing a tiny hand over her chest. My stomach drops. "Show me," I say, voice calm though my heart races. Her face blanches, sways. I catch her just in time. "Call 911, I order automatically. Chairs scrape. Mom gasps. Dad freezes with the knife midair. Cole hovers like he might catch a plate. The EMTs arrive, their calm filling the room like cold air. A dehydration, anxiety, overheated, quick ER check recommended because of her asthma history. At the ER, fluorescent lights make everything look too honest. Maya's color returns. She sleeps with her hand in mine. I sit, pretending to read a poster about hand washing while counting seconds. Mom slips in, a small cup of water in hand, a worried smile on her face. "Is the allowance still enough?" she asks. I blink. What allowance? Her mouth opens, closes. Eyes flit to Maya, then the hallway. Silence. Then she leaves. 30 minutes later, a knock. Mom returns, holding a small folder. She looks like someone walking into a courtroom. What happens next will change everything. My family runs on unspoken rules. Rule 1, Cole is the project. Rule 2, Rachel is the project manager. Rule 3, we never say this out loud. Cole's misadventures with crypto, his mortgage struggles, Mom's quiet credit card balances, all my responsibilities in disguise. I became the I, the fixer, the one who could be interrupted without fallout. Then came the Thanksgiving folder. Mom's $2,800 question. Not a gift, not a random number. A system, a transfer. Every part of my body stiffened. I realized I'd been carrying responsibility I didn't even know existed. The folder contained bank statements, school notes, dentist bills, all showing monthly transfers from my father's account. The money never touched mine. Before she could answer, Dad and Cole appear, timing like a bad play. Dad eyes Maya first, then the folder, then me. Cole avoids my gaze. "Is she okay?" Dad asks. "She's sleeping," I reply. "Close the door." The confrontation begins. Statements, transfers, explanations. Dad's casual, "we help family," doesn't sit right. Cole mutters half-hearted defenses. Mom's fingertips tremble on the folder. I take a deep breath. Not anymore. I lay down boundaries. No more transfers. No more using Maya's name as a placeholder for my family's mistakes. If paperwork suggests consent from me, it's revoked. Today. Cole scoffs. Going to sue your family? This isn't revenge, I say. It's closure. Dad steps closer. You're tearing this family apart. You did that when you lied to Mom. You did that when you used my daughter's name to justify stealing from me, I fire back. Mom's hand over her mouth. Enough, she whispers. Louder. Enough. I lift Maya gently. Nurse in tow, we leave. No slam, no yelling. Just a door shutting, with the cleanest sound I've heard all year. The first morning after, my phone is a warning beacon. Missed calls, voicemails, emails. I ignore them. I make pancakes shaped like letters for Maya, and the silence feels like air. I bullet list my next steps. Freeze credit, remove my name from all accounts, update passwords, enable two-factor, draft legal letters to banks and mortgage servicers. Baby-proof my adult life. Mom texts, I'm sorry, can we talk? Not today, I reply. Maya builds a fort with couch cushions. I tell her the truth in kid size. Grandma and Grandpa made a money mistake. We're making sure nobody uses your name without asking me. 2 days later, an envelope from Dad arrives. Printed bank statements. Same $2,800. Same for Maya. I label it evidence. Life resumes in small, quiet ways. Maya and I bake weird rolls, laugh. I check emails less. I sleep more. Silence feels like freedom. Boundaries feel like safety. Love doesn't cancel math. Family isn't a wallet password. I am Rachel Thompson, mother, lawyer, guardian of Maya's name. This isn't revenge. This is closure. The day after I shut the door on my parents' house, the silence was almost deafening. Maya played with her fort cushions, chattering to herself while I went through the motions of adult baby-proofing, freezing my credit, removing my name from accounts, changing every password, enabling two-factor authentication, drafting letters to banks and mortgage servicers. I felt like a soldier assembling defenses. Every number, every signature, every digital key was a moat around my life, and yet, no matter how thorough I was, a quiet part of me wondered, would it be enough? Cole tried reaching out almost immediately. A text. Rachel, it's just money. Don't go nuclear. We can fix this. I stared at it for a long time. Fix this. He didn't see the problem. Money was never the problem. Trust was. I muted his thread and left the phone on the counter. Dad's calls were relentless. You'll regret this when you need us, he said, voice like he thought guilt could be a leash. I let it ring. I didn't need them to call. I needed my family to understand boundaries, something they had never learned in all their years of pushing me to manage their chaos. Meanwhile, small victories filled the gaps. Maya learned to spell Maya with her breakfast pancakes. We made calendars for chores and added silly stickers. I could finally breathe at night without worrying someone had used my daughter's name as a proxy for another person's debts. But the undercurrent never went away. Cole started messaging in other ways. Emails marked urgent, questions about the mortgage, passive-aggressive updates from his wife Amber. He never asked directly for help, but the tone implied that I should care. I reminded myself boundaries weren't cruelty, they were survival. Then came the subtle manipulations from Mom. She would check in about Maya, stop mid-sentence before asking for a favor, and quietly slide a note about the allowance. Her eyes would plead, half apology, half accusation. Your father only wants to help, she said one morning, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I let her speak. I nodded. Inside, a storm of anger brewed. Helping is not stealing. Assistance is not manipulation. I repeated it like a mantra. And yet, the guilt crept in. Rachel Thompson, mother, lawyer, protector, how could I make them see that doing the right thing sometimes means letting go? Then Cole made a bigger move. He sent a long email, CCing Dad and Mom, with statements from the mortgage company I had never contacted, as if to show me the dire consequences of my refusal to intervene. No words of apology. No recognition that I had never agreed to be responsible for this. Only silent judgment wrapped in data and numbers. I stared at the screen, hand on Maya's hair as she built her fort. My heartbeat slowed. I typed one line. I am not a party to this. Remove me from all communication. Signed, Rachel Thompson, attorney at law. The silence afterward was strange. Cole did not reply. Dad did not call. Mom texted again, small, hopeful. Can we talk today? I ignored it. The days blurred into quiet routines. Maya and I went to the cheap movie theater with sticky floors, laughed at silly scenes, and I ran early mornings, watching her hairband catch the sun like a superhero's cape. I began to see a life that was mine, untangled from other people's problems. But the family machinery was still warming up. Aunt Linda began texting, trying to mediate. Uncle Tom called, worried about team unity. Cousin Becca asked if I could explain everything so Grandma wouldn't be hurt. I replied the same to each. No more money, no more lies. Boundaries are not cruelty. One evening, as Maya played quietly in her fort, Dad called. I answered. You're making this bigger than it is, he said, without a greeting. It's exactly as big as it is, I replied. You don't get to use my daughter's name to justify helping someone else. He laughed, bitter. It was for you to feel like a savior. And that line goes silent, I said, because I'm done. Afterward, I checked my email. A final notice from the mortgage company I had never contacted. Cole had CC'd me and Mom. No explanation, no cry for help, only the cold efficiency of numbers. I replied to all. Please remove me from this thread. I am not a party. Do not contact me again. Signed, Rachel Thompson, attorney at law. I made pancakes shaped like letters. Maya spelled out Freedom. She didn't know the word fully yet, but somehow she understood the feeling. 2 days later, Mom showed up at the park near my apartment. Public, neutral. She handed me an envelope. Copies, she said. In case anyone tried to rewrite history, I took them anyway. Rachel Thompson, mother, lawyer, guardian of Maya's name. Slowly the tension loosened. Life moved in small, deliberate steps. For the first time in years, I could breathe. And I realized this wasn't revenge. It was the life I had chosen, intentionally, fiercely, for me and Maya. The following week felt like stepping through a fog. My apartment, usually a sanctuary, became a battlefield of thoughts. Every ping from my phone, texts, missed calls, emails, was a reminder that the family machine hadn't stopped. It had merely shifted gears. Cole's messages, silent in their aggression, were the hardest to ignore. Each one was a reminder that my refusal to intervene had consequences. But whose consequences? Not mine. Mom tried again. She sent a text, apologetic, fragile. I didn't want you to feel blindsided. Can we talk tomorrow? I left it unread. I knew the conversation would be a trap of guilt, mixed with half-truths and manipulations. Maya noticed my tension. Mom, why do you look so worried? She asked one morning, tugging at my sleeve as she sat in her fort surrounded by a castle of cushions. I smiled, forcing calm. I'm not worried, honey. Just thinking. But inside, I was thinking about boundaries, manipulation, and the endless cycle of solving problems that weren't mine to fix. Then came Cole's next move, a subtle one, wrapped in courtesy. A handwritten note slipped under my door. He praised my work as a lawyer, expressed worry for Dad's health, and, underneath all the politeness, assumed I'd eventually cave. He always assumed I'd fold, because that was my role, fixer, project manager, the one who quietly carried everyone else's burdens. I burned the note. I could feel a twinge of guilt, but I reminded myself, letting someone manipulate you is not kindness. It is complicity. One evening, Dad called, tone casual but sharp. Rachel, we just want to help. Don't make this personal. It's already personal, I said. You use my daughter's name. You use my trust. That's personal. He paused. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being clear. Every time he called, I rehearsed my response. I stayed calm, practiced, repeated my boundaries. I refused to be drawn into their logic, their familial scripts designed to make me doubt myself. Meanwhile, life at home became a lesson in quiet joy. Maya and I painted, baked oddly shaped cookies, and read stories until the sky turned pink with sunset. These moments, simple and unremarkable, were the victories that reminded me why I fought so hard to protect our little world. Then came an unexpected email. Cole had CC'd everyone again. Mom, Dad, even Amber. This time, it was a request to mediate family harmony. It was a trap. Formal, polite, weaponized. The underlying message, I'm right, you're overreacting, and you will cave. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the screen. My hand hovered over the keyboard. Slowly, deliberately, I typed. I am not participating in this. I am not a party to your financial decisions or your attempts to manipulate me. Remove me from all threads. Signed, Rachel Thompson, attorney at law. I hit send and felt a weight lift, though it was only the first of many lifts to come. That night, Maya fell asleep with her head on my shoulder, breathing steady and peaceful. I realized I hadn't felt this kind of calm in years. The tension from family, the constant vigilance, had dominated every waking hour. Now it was a memory, manageable and distant. But the family machine was still running. It would always try to pull me back in, and I knew I had to stay firm, not for revenge, not for punishment, but for our peace. In these quiet hours, I also reflected on my own role. I had spent so much of my life managing everyone else, solving problems, fixing crises, taking on guilt that wasn't mine. And now, for the first time, I was learning to let go, to choose where my energy went, to prioritize the people who mattered most, Maya and me. It wasn't easy. The guilt whispered at night, the subtle pressures tested my resolve, but each time I turned away from manipulation, each time I enforced a boundary, I felt the slow, steady growth of strength. And that strength was real, tangible, life-changing. This part of the journey was not about confrontation. It was about clarity, about reclaiming agency, about finally drawing lines that could not be crossed. The family would push, as families do, but I had learned something essential. My daughter's name, my peace, my boundaries, they were mine to protect. And in that protection, I found freedom. Weeks passed. The family's attempts at intrusion became more desperate, more transparent. Texts from Dad fluctuated between guilt-laden pleas and veiled threats. Cole's emails oscillated from politeness to passive-aggressive barbs, always laced with the assumption that I would give in eventually, but I didn't. One morning I received a package. No note, just the familiar weight of obligation disguised as a gift. Inside were receipts, bank statements, and carefully annotated notes detailing Cole's finances. It was a trap. They wanted me to get involved, to act as their auditor, their savior. I held the papers in my hands, and for the first time I felt true clarity. I would not. Not for them, not for anyone. Maya noticed the tension and asked quietly, "Mom, is it about Grandma and Grandpa again?" I pulled her close. "No, sweetheart, it's about keeping our space safe." That night, Dad called. The tone was sharper than usual. "Rachel, you're tearing the family apart. You're being extreme." "I'm protecting my family," I said evenly. "That's not extreme. That's responsibility." "You don't understand the bigger picture," he snapped. "I understand perfectly," I said. "You and Cole have been using my daughter's name to cover mistakes. That ends now." The line went silent. I imagined him fuming, frustrated that his control had no effect. I allowed myself a quiet smile. A week later, I received a text from Mom. Simple, vulnerable. "Can we meet at the park? Just us." I agreed, cautiously. When I arrived, Mom sat on the bench, clutching a small envelope. Her eyes were wet, her hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't see it at first. I thought we were helping you." I took a deep breath. "I know, but help doesn't involve using my daughter's name. It doesn't involve stealing or hiding." She nodded. "I see that now. I should have stood with you." The envelope contained copies of all past financial records, annotated notes, and letters I could use to protect myself and Maya. "I want you to have these," she said, "in case anyone tries to rewrite the story." I held the papers carefully, like fragile glass. "Thank you, Mom. But the real work isn't in the paper. It's in the boundaries I'm setting." Maya tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, can we go feed the ducks?" I smiled, lifting her into my arms. "Yes, let's go. Our world is still ours." Back home, I arranged the documents in labeled folders, set up alerts on my accounts, and froze my credit. Every precaution, every small act of protection felt like building a fortress. The family tried one last push. Cole texted, attempting charm and reason. Dad called again, softening his voice. But I didn't respond, not immediately. I waited, letting the silence speak louder than any argument could. Finally, Cole sent a simple thumbs-up emoji in response to a neutral message. It was a small sign of recognition. They would test the limits, but I had made it unmistakably clear. My daughter, my peace, my life, Those were not negotiable. That evening, Maya built a fort, her laughter echoing through the apartment. I watched, breathing in the quiet freedom I had carved out for us. It wasn't perfect. There were scars, lessons learned in fire, but it was ours. I realized then that life isn't about controlling others or solving their problems. Life is about choosing what and who you protect. And for me, that choice was clear. I had taken back my life. I had reclaimed my boundaries. And in that reclamation, I found not only safety, but a strange, liberating joy. No more manipulation, no more silent obligations, no more stolen trust. Only Maya, our life, and the calm knowledge that I would never let anyone use her or me again. Freedom, I discovered, was built not with money or favors or sacrifices. It was built with boundaries, and I would defend them every day. The days after the park meeting felt lighter. Dad and Cole's messages no longer carried the urgency or guilt they once had. Mom reached out occasionally, carefully, no longer asking for favors or overstepping boundaries. Their attempts to draw me into their chaos had diminished, either out of respect, exhaustion, or recognition that I would no longer comply. Maya and I settled into a rhythm that felt almost ordinary, but richer because it was ours. We made pancakes shaped like letters on Sunday mornings, laughing as the shapes collapsed in the pan. She taught me a new game she called Tea for the Neighbors, using imaginary cups for invisible friends. I let her imagination roam free while I sat, coffee in hand, savoring the quiet that no one else could disturb. I organized our home life meticulously, not out of obsession, but as an act of protection. I froze my credit, updated passwords, removed any permissions tied to outside accounts, and set up alerts so I would know immediately if anyone tried to access our information. Each step felt like reclaiming a little more of the life I had almost lost to family obligations. One evening, Cole texted, cautiously polite, asking about a shared memory from Maya's last birthday. I replied briefly, neutral. 2 days later, a thumbs up emoji. No drama, no manipulation, just acknowledgement. That small gesture was all I needed to know that boundaries were taking hold. Mom called one afternoon, her voice lighter than it had been in years. "Rachel, thank you," she said, "for standing firm, for showing me how to protect Maya and yourself." "I'm glad, Mom," I said, "but remember, protecting someone doesn't mean controlling them. It's about respect, yours, mine, and hers." She paused, softening. "I understand. I think I've learned that now." I hung up and felt a deep sense of closure. Not revenge, not triumph, just clarity. Maya climbed onto my lap that night, resting her head against my shoulder. "Mom, are we safe?" she whispered. I kissed the top of her hair. "We are, sweetheart, we are." The quiet nights became our sanctuary. No last-minute calls, no hidden agendas, no financial confusion, just the steady rhythm of our life together. I watched Maya sleep, her small chest rising and falling, and realized that I had given her something more valuable than money or gifts. I had given her a mother who could protect her, who could say no, and who could create a world where she was safe and loved. And in protecting Maya, I had protected myself. The habits of being everyone's savior slowly dissolved. I still helped when I could, but only on my terms, only when it didn't compromise our peace. I had learned to distinguish between responsibility and exploitation, between love and obligation. The family still existed outside our apartment, but their influence had changed. Dad called occasionally about neutral matters, and Mom checked in, but always with caution and respect. Cole continued with his life, occasionally texting neutral updates. The drama had faded, leaving room for genuine connection, if they were willing to meet me halfway. I discovered that love doesn't cancel boundaries. Family doesn't mean unlimited access to your life. Money and favors cannot replace integrity, honesty, and trust. And most importantly, the smallest human, the 9-year-old with boundless imagination, can anchor you in what truly matters. I had fought for my daughter, and in doing so, I had fought for myself. We were safe. We were free. And for the first time in years, I could breathe without calculating the cost. Maya's laughter echoed through the apartment one morning as she chased imaginary butterflies across the floor. I smiled, letting it fill every corner of our home. Life wasn't perfect, and perhaps it never would be. But it was ours, and that was enough. I had reclaimed my world. I had drawn the line, and in that boundary, I found the most unexpected gift of all: peace.